What an amazing time to be alive, because today you can buy some what was once six-figure cars for under $40,000.
We're talking about cars that could do 3-second 0 to 60s and 11-second quarter miles.
This was only able to be enjoyed by the top 1% when it was new. Today it can be yours for less than a Hyundai Elantra.
Hello everybody and welcome to Performance on Wheels. My name is Austin. My dad Todd and I, we make all types of different car videos on all types of different cars. Today we're going to check out this 2015 Audi RS7. Now 97% of you that have been enjoying our older car review series have yet to hit that subscribe button. So do us a huge favor, support this father-son team, hit that subscribe button. Now let's get into the RS7. All right, no more wasting your time. Born from Audi's relentless pursuit of speed and sophistication, the RS7 traces its DNA back through decades of rally-bred quattros, Autobahn-storming sedans, and German horsepower wars of the 2000s. Audi's engineers took the sleek A7 Sportback, injected it with RS Division's racing pedigree, and crafted a masterpiece, wide, low, and menacing. Beneath its sculpted hood was a hand-built twin-turbo V8 that delivers supercar performance with the comfort and tech of a luxury flagship. By 2015, the RS7 had become a pinnacle of Audi's blend of performance and elegance, an all-weather missile that could outrun almost anything on the road, yet arrive anywhere in absolute style.
10 years after the Audi RS7, the first generation of it, came out, it is still an absolutely beautiful car to look at. The 21-inch kind of fan design wheels look incredible. I love the stainless accents. It's an amazing looking car, and I appreciate it so much more after driving it and getting behind the wheel.
Today we're going to break down the performance of the RS7. We're going to go over some reliability issues and some things you should look at if this is a car you're pursuing on the used car market. We're going to get behind the wheel and drive it and see what this one is like to experience with over 80,000 miles on it. Talk about some other issues and higher mileage examples and stuff like that. Let's get into it.
Just to make sure the level of performance of the Audi RS7 is completely clear, let's make sure we understand some quarter mile times. Now, you might look at some places that will tell you this car is just a smidge faster than the 11.87 second quarter mile time that I'm sharing with you. That's with the trap speed of right around 115. But let's talk about some of the cars that are right in that same category, within tenths or even hundredths of a second. The Dodge Viper SRT 10 being one, the AMG GT63, 2022 Porsche 911 GT3 is another example of a car that falls right into that category. Even its flagship vehicle, the Audi R8, is another vehicle that falls right in line with the performance that the Audi RS7 is capable of producing.
All of that is thanks to a 4-liter twin-turbo hot V V8 that lies under the hood of this RS7. Let's go ahead and dive into it.
560 horsepower, 516 pound-feet of torque, paired to the ZF 8-speed legendary transmission. We could talk about that all day. I've had it in numerous vehicles, including the little sister to this car, and we'll talk about that here in a few minutes as well. But this engine is essentially still in production today. It's still being used. There's been some revisions. The biggest fault of this vehicle is engine related.
The turbo oil screens, the biggest failure point on any 4-liter twin turbo.
There's a lot of recalls on them. There's a very good chance that a used one has had that issue replaced, but is the biggest point of either awareness that you need to have or the biggest time spent you need to search on if the vehicle you're looking at has had it done. Essentially, you want to look for a really regular maintenance history, very frequent oil changes, more frequent, like 5,000 miles or less. That's what you want to look for from the history standpoint, but ultimately you want to do a deep dive of if the dealership made this repair either through a recall or a warranty.
The oil screens are the biggest thing that the engine is known to fail from. There's also some other items that you have to look out for on these 4-liter twin-turbo V8s. One of them being the carbon buildup. You want to make sure that you're keeping everything clean up top in the valve train, because the carbon buildup over time can cause quite a few failures inside of this 4-liter twin-turbo. Another massive issue with these engines are just the turbochargers in general. Not necessarily being caused by the oil screen, but they could fail prone to heat. Just excessive heat can cause them to internally fail, either just grenading one of the turbos and having to replace one of those just as a whole, or if they end up failing and sending parts throughout the engine. Those are a couple of small things you need to look out for. Talking about the ZF 8-speed, this is one of the most reliable transmissions out there. They're well known for reliability. Just stay up to date on fluid changes, even if it says not to. There's videos online on how to actually change change the fluid on your ZF 8-speed, especially on vehicles like this that are getting up there in miles. That is one of the things to look out for, because dealers will say that it's a one-time only fluid and it doesn't need to be changed. I would still recommend getting that fluid changed.
I previously had a 2015 Audi A8L, and it was a remarkable car. It had the same 4-liter twin turbo V8 in that. I bought a low mileage example that had all the maintenance history that I was talking about done. Now, when I say same motor, it's not the same motor. When you start talking about the RS7, you do get some additional internal items for the additional power and just overall performance capability that is known with the RS7 line. In addition to the internal components of the motor, there's some additional items associated with cooling the motor, as well as making sure the motor gets more air, so a different air intake system. When you start talking about the transmission, it's really similar other than some tuning items. A lot of the suspension components do carry over. There are differences, so don't be fooled there. Differences in the brake, differences in the rear end. So my whole point in saying this and sharing this with you is when I had that A8, I thought that I can turn this car into an S or an RS product. The fact of the matter is I sold that A8 because even after doing a stage 1 tune and increasing the horsepower numbers to similar to what a stock RS7 might be, I have learned that the RS7 is still completely on a different tier. I sold that A8 because that car was too tame, it was too mild, it was way too refined. I needed something that just made my hair stand up on the back of my neck a little bit. The RS7 100% does that.
Not long ago, I drove an Audi RS6 Avant. And I was kind of disappointed in the sense that the car had the looks, the car had the sound, but it didn't have the driver engagement that I was hoping for. The steering felt so light, the acceleration was extremely fast, but it wasn't super intense. You didn't get thrown back to your seat. The RS7 changes that entirely, at least in this generation. This 2015 RS7 is truly a joy to drive. I did not expect going into this to enjoy driving this car too much. I usually find Audis to be too tame, too unresponsive, too boring when you try to push them hard, but I don't feel that way at all inside of this RS7. It feels like a fantastic driver's car. It feels like a missile when you put your foot down. It pushes, you can feel the G's on your chest pushing you against the back of your seat. It really is a fantastic car to be behind the wheel of. Holy cow! The way it like just barely bounced off the rev limiter and then that ZF 8-speed just rockets into the next gear is unbelievable. If it was just a hair louder, I would argue that it has a similar exhaust sound to the Jaguar F-Type that we have, the SVR. If it was just a hair louder, it would be right there. This car just sounds fantastic. And the pops, the bangs. So fun. And not only is it amazing to drive behind the wheel of the RS7, but it's just incredible to sit in these quilted leather seats that have massage functions. They're extremely comfortable. The bolstering is great. I mean, easily could spend hours in here for a road trip. Not only that, but just the steering wheel feels fantastic in your hand. The carbon fiber running all around you, up around the dash, that little stripe just makes it feel so premium, so luxurious, and so high end. The technology is starting to feel a bit dated in here. The screen that pops up just looks old. It looks like it's from 2014, 2015, from that generation. So there is that that might be a little bit disappointing to interact with. However, the cluster that you interact with that has your gauges inside of it is fantastic. It's really good. It looks modern still. It's just that infotainment screen that looks quite dated. Everything else about the interior in here, you're going to be very pleased with. The materials are very premium. They're holding up exceptionally well. Everything in here works flawlessly. And you even have this sweet button to pop your wing up and down, which just looks so sweet. But you're not just buying an RS7 for the front seat. You obviously needed a back seat, otherwise there's a ton of other options on the market. And the back seat is not the most practical thing in the world. At 5'11", my head is crammed against the roof of this thing. Every time I move forward, I get to just cramming and whacking my head on this ridge in the front of this thing. Even just sitting normally, my head is crammed against the roof of this car. So I have to slouch a bit, and when I try to slouch, my knees are crammed into where I was comfortable as a driver. It is a little bit tight back back here, I'm not gonna lie. However, I do have the availability to adjust my climate control, which is nice. I have this sweet overview of all the carbon fiber from the front driver and passenger seat, which is really, really cool. Fitting 5 adults in here would be quite miserable, I'm not gonna lie. You could do it, but it will not be enjoyable. Fitting a car seat back here would be a challenge as well, but it's also doable. So there's these things that you kind of sacrifice in the sense of looks with this sweet slope back roof. However, it works. It's just not the most practical thing in the world for a back seat in a sedan, but it'll get the job done if needed. Now, that sloped roof line is not just for looks though. Yes, you do sacrifice some passenger seat headroom, but what you do also do is greatly increase your trunk storage by not going to a flat trunk and having that slope all the way back. The trunk on this thing is massive, just a massive area of space. You can also fold the back seats down, making yourself just have this huge, huge area that you can fit massive Home Depot runs or whatever else you need to do. And huge shout out to Apple Autos for supplying the RS7 that was used in today's video. If you guys are interested in purchasing this RS7, be sure to check out the link down in the description below. Now, I'm not gonna lie, the RS7 absolutely blew me away in the sense where I've had the opportunity to drive and experience a lot of different Audi products, and every time I'm disappointed.
I hear you.
In a sense where they're just lackluster from a driver engagement standpoint. Yeah, they're fast. Yeah, they're cool looking. Yeah, they usually have a really nice interior, but every time I've driven one, no matter how fast it is, I've had no engagement behind the wheel. However, this generation of RS7 is unlike any Audi that I've driven before, and I'm not talking about like the older Audis, I'm talking about some of the newer models. It just has such great driver engagement. It actually feels enjoyable when you push it into a corner. It will understeer, but it doesn't understeer nearly as hard as some of the newer ones that I've experienced. The pushback into your seat and the feeling you get in your chest during an acceleration is absolutely incredible. The sound is absolutely incredible. Almost on a similar tier to your F-Type SVR,
It sounds pretty good. And that's another thing we'll talk about just here in a second. And just the overall design, it really gets you going. I absolutely loved being inside. Back to that list at the beginning of the video, this 4-door sedan with the room in the back for your dog and your snowboard, it has the same performance as my 2-door coupe with a 550 horsepower supercharged motor, right? So this thing is legit. Same transmission, by the way. It's just an incredible engineering marvel that can be had for years for less than $40,000.
However, it's a huge pain in the butt to do work on yourself. Under the hood of this thing is beyond complicated. You will be watching videos on videos, which there is out there, on what you are doing. You're probably going to get really stressed out when something breaks and trying to DIY it. However, the advantage of the RS7 we are looking at today is the year. It's still going to be a vehicle that you're going to find an aftermarket warranty for. There's some company out there that will sell you an aftermarket warranty. It won't be cheap, but you're going to be able to get one, which makes it kind of appealing in that sense. But it's still one of those cars that can be very scary to own outside of a warranty.
Yeah, and there's just the fact of the matter is yes, people will argue that this is a reliable car, a reliable platform. But any car that gets up in years that is doing 3-second 0 to 60 times, that is putting a lot of strain on motor mounts and every bushing in the vehicle every time this thing is launched. All that stuff adds up when it comes to a cost standpoint.
Transmission,
everything is feeling that.
It has 2 diffs, you know, you probably have a transfer case sending power. Like, there's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of it's taking stress every time you put your foot to the floor.
So here's the word of wise with that being said. Yes, this is a phenomenal car. Yes, it's an amazing experience. Yes, I would recommend owning it, but you still need to have that piggy bank for those what-if scenarios. Don't think you're buying a Honda Accord or a Toyota Camry, something along those lines. This comes with a premium when it comes to maintaining it. Don't let that under $40,000 price tag fool you. Thank you for tuning into Performance on Wheels today. We really enjoyed checking this car out. It's amazing. It's an amazing time to be alive because we get to experience cars like this for an affordable price.